Welcome to a brand new episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Hit that subscribe button, please. You never want to miss an episode. We have so many fascinating interviews and interesting people. I hope you got the John Kennedy episode. Phenomenal. Today is a Wild Card Wednesday. These are ones you do not want to miss. We're going around the internet so you don't have to. Hopefully catching things that you've missed that we think you really need to hear. And we're going to start with a woman who is recently come into the public consciousness, maybe not yours, but certainly mine. Her name is Tish Hyman. She's a musician who lives out in the LA area pursuing her dreams as a musician. She happens to be Black and she happens to be a lesbian. And you may have seen recently that she was at a Gold's Gym and saw a man in her locker room. And she rightfully went to the front desk and said, "Why is there a man in the locker room?" Well, this man apparently identifies as a woman, is a trans woman. Again, we can talk about that, but Tish has really brought a lot of attention to the issue of men in women's spaces. So where did she take her campaign next? She took it to a guy named Scott Wiener. I know the jokes write themselves, but we're not going to go there. But he is running now to replace Nancy Pelosi in California. So she went to one of his rallies. It wasn't really a rally. It was more of a meet and greet, a question and answer thing. She sat right in the front row and she delivered. Meet Tish Hyman.
Senator Wiener, as the only Black lesbian here, can I please ask you a question because I flew here to do that? Yeah. Okay. As a lesbian woman who was attacked in the women's locker room at Gold's Gym this week by a self-identifying trans woman with a documented history of domestic violence, I'm deeply concerned about women's safety in female-only spaces. What would you say to women who are seeking assurance that their safety will be protected from men who, by California law, can self-ID as women in women-only spaces, sir? Please tell me.
Yeah. So we want, everyone to be safe, and we also know that we have trans people, both men and women, who are men and women, and so so if you're trans women are women.
Senator, you've done great things with the bills you've passed with the housing. I've read a lot of your bills, and like you said, there are bills that need to be opened up, and I'm telling you now. Millions of women across America are being harassed and sexually assaulted in locker rooms. I'm a lesbian Black woman. I'm not transphobic. I'm not homophobic. And I do respect a lot of the things you've done. But I do see a lot of these bills that you've passed that are dangerous for women and young children. And I understand that you're trying to be on a level playing field. And I'm here to represent my community because I hear a lot of things about my community in these bills. And I'm telling you as a woman, first and foremost, that this is dangerous, and we need your help, because you're in the office, you're going to go in the Polisky spot. I want to support you. I have millions of people behind me watching this right now, and we want to know, are you going to protect women? Not trans women, women. Trans women are different things. Women. Listen, we need to protect women's safety. I was assaulted. Women are women. I was assaulted. No, they are not. They are men. I was assaulted by women. He broke his wife's jaw so bad she needed reconstructive surgery. I'm a lesbian. I'm not transphobic and I'm Black. So if there's another Black woman in here who wants to tell me how they feel, please join in. But all of you are not. And I don't know who you are, what you are, but I'm a lesbian, and I'm telling you right now, men are harassing women in the locker room.
Let's let him answer the question.
I'm just telling you, since y'all want to woo.
No, just let's.
Now I'm done. And by the way, I respect what you have done. I just want to let you know that.
Let's give the senator the opportunity.
I'm done.
I appreciate your point of view.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry that you were harassed.
Multiple times.
And I appreciate you talking about it. I think we need to protect the safety of all women. And that obviously that's incredibly important. And I also know that trans women are also brutalized in this country. So women and cisgender women are brutalized in this country, and we have to protect the safety of all women.
We have to protect women. We cannot be raped in the bathrooms by men that want to say they're women. They're not women. They're not women. I'm leaving. It's okay, but I'm not going to take it. I am leaving because you know what? You guys are not protecting women. You're doing a lot. The bills that you're passing for the law, I read a lot of them. They're great. But this things with the trans, it's not right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And my name is Tish Hyman. You heard me, sister? All right. Don't let them use our blackness and our civil rights as a reason to pass weird laws for children to transform. It's wrong. My sister's in jail. She can't get free tampons or soap, but she can get free transformation medication. Big Pharma at its best. Tired of it.
Yeah, Scott.
Well, things were going so smooth.
You know what? Things aren't supposed to go smoothly in those discussions. I applaud Tish Hyman. I have looked at a lot of Scott Wiener's legislation, a lot of legislation in California, the place I grew up, and I don't agree with it. Apparently she does, but on this one, it looks like she's ready to die on that hill. And we probably shouldn't use that terminology because, you know, the way things are going recently, but good for her. Did you hear the crowd when she said trans women are not women? Oh, they got so up in arms. No, they're not. I've got another exhibit for you. This is a trans woman, clearly not a woman, clearly a man, complaining because trans women aren't getting college sports scholarships. Let's roll this.
Since 2011, 1.2 million women in the United States have received college athletic scholarships to NCAA programs at the Division I and Division II level. 1.2 million. Out of that 1.2 million who received college athletic scholarships, how many would you guess are trans women? I'll give you 2 seconds to answer. One trans woman in the last 15 years in the United States has received a college athletic scholarship.
You know, here's the thing. Trans women aren't women. See, there's this thing called Title IX that women fought and fought and fought for, to have equal access to athletics, spaces, all of the things that women weren't getting before Title IX. So now we get Title IX, and we've got men trying to say, we deserve some of your scholarships. We deserve to be in your spaces. No, you don't. And I was really pleased to hear that the International Olympic Committee, often called the IOC, that's what you'll hear, determined that there will be no trans women allowed to compete in the women's divisions in the Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028. Bravo. You know why? Because there's tons of proof that no matter when you decide to transition or take puberty blockers or whatever it is you decide to do, you've still got an athletic advantage. We're still here. We're still fighting this, but we continue to add people to stand up for this kind of stuff. And I include Tish Hyman in this group now. I applaud her. We're with you, Tish. We are with you. Okay, speaking of my growing up in California, I went to Berkeley. UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, in Berkeley, California. Both my parents went there. My eldest sister went there. And for a while, I was a really proud Berkeley alum. It is a very difficult school to get into. It is academically stringent. It's a challenge. But then they started doing some dumb stuff. You may know that Berkeley is often called the birthplace of free speech. Not really, because free speech is in the First Amendment. But Berkeley wanted to be this bastion of free thought and free speech. Not lately. I sent my diploma back when they started canceling conservative speakers, like 10 years ago. Well, now they're trying to to walk this tightrope of allowing conservative speakers, but still allowing protest. And I'm not talking about peaceful protest. If what you're about to see you think is a peaceful protest, well, we've got different definitions of the word peaceful. I mean, words matter, as people like to say. If you define them, if you all have the same definition for words, which is the whole point of language, to communicate the same thoughts, to have a common language that we all know what each word means. So peaceful, this is not. But let's start with this scene from Berkeley. Okay, anytime, any place, punch a fascist in the face. Okay, what was that all about? That was about Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. This is the Turning Point college tour. And a couple nights ago, they completed the final stop on that tour was UC Berkeley. So they went into the belly of the beast. They went into the lion's den. The good news was there were tons of people there to listen, but they had to endure that. They had to go through those crowds to get into the building. They had to go through those crowds to get out of the building. And so this next piece of sound is a guy named Andrew Doyle, who was part of the panel. And he illustrated very clearly through his message what is going on in that scene you just witnessed. Go ahead and roll it.
There's a really simple solution. If you disapprove of a speaker or you don't want to go and see a show, don't buy a ticket. And then you've made that decision for yourself. And we see there's a lot of empty, this is a sold out event and there's a lot of empty seats here. So what has happened is those individuals outside setting off tear gas and the rest have made a decision on behalf of other people, and they've said paternalistically, we're going to decide what you can and cannot go to, what words you can and cannot hear. Yes. That is called authoritarianism. That's what that is. And those people outside here are organizing under the umbrella of Antifa, anti-fascism. Now, the problem with that, and I know, I'm aware, I'm sensitive to the fact that there are multiple definitions of fascism and that there are disputes within academia over the precise definition. But I'll tell you one thing. The consistent feature of all fascistic regimes is the suppression of alternative viewpoints through violence. That's the key thing that they all share. So if you are a member of Antifa using violence to shut down speech you disagree with, guess what? You're kind of going along with the fascist playbook there.
I don't know if it's the British accent that works so well, but he just sounded wonderful. And he was right. See, this is what happens when people disagree with you and they can't just debate you because they don't have thoughts to debate upon or ideas they want to support or back up with words. They just want to scare the hell out of you. And they want to keep you away from events. And in that case, it worked. That not every seat was full, although it had been a sold out event because people couldn't get in. Or maybe some people chose to not try to get in once they saw that scene break out. By the way, did you notice that some of the protesters had keffiyehs, those Palestinian scarves on? You know, all this protesting is like one thing rolled up into a keffiyeh scarf, whether it's anti-Israel, whether it's pro-Hamas, whether it's, no matter what the protest, trans activists, they all have keffiyehs on. Part of that is just to hide their face so they don't get arrested or don't get identified later with all the video. I just don't understand. So this is, it used to be just that you'd get heckled, right? You go make a speech, someone disagree with you, they just heckled you. Then it's, Charlie Kirk getting shot. In this case, it's just a bunch of violent, riotous Antifa members. The other person who was there and who spoke is Rob Schneider, yes, the comedian. And he pretty much told Berkeley what I told them 10 years ago when I returned my diploma. Roll it.
Conservative activist Rob Schneider said the birthplace of the free speech movement needs to do some soul searching.
Let me tell you, Berkeley, shame on you, Berkeley. Shame on you. The regents, the academics here, you should fight for free speech. If free speech means anything, it's the right for me to say something that pisses you off, if it means anything.
Amen.
Free speech is all speech.
And so combine those two notions. Free speech means I get to say anything. Now, as we have found out, you might suffer a consequence from somebody else, not the government. The government cannot put a hand on you. They cannot arrest you for things that you say, but you might get fired from your job. If you say that Charlie Kirk deserved to die, if you say something like that, you might get fired from your job, right? If you say something that goes against your company line and you say it publicly out and proud, you might lose your job. I've seen it happen to people on both sides of the ideological spectrum. Let's put it that way, okay? So that's number one. Number two, if you don't want to listen to someone, don't buy a ticket. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Let the ideas be out there. especially the bad ones, or ones that you consider bad. Not violently, not like those protesters violently, but let the words speak for themselves. It's simply speech. And if it hurts you, well, then you're complicit because you've allowed it to hurt you. You don't need to do that. You don't need to attend. You can disagree. But saying that you've been harmed somehow by speech, you might be offended. That's your choice. That is your choice. It is a choice to be offended. It is completely up to you and your mind. You know what else is up to you and your mind? Buying American. I do it. I work very hard to make sure that I check labels for where things are made. And you know what? It's that time again. It is time to select presents for your family, your corporate gifts, your best friends, your employees, and you want to get them a gift that is fantastic, unforgettable, and truly hot. Okay, that would be a Solaire infrared grill from besthotgrill.com. My good friends at besthotgrill.com make these Solaire infrared grills that heat up to 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes. They produce juicy and tasty food unmatched by conventional grills. Perfect for today's busy lifestyle. The hot and fast Solaire infrared grills are the gift that will be used. I have one. We use it. I love it. And every time your loved ones, your best clients, or your valued employees grill on their Solaire infrared grill, they will think of you. All Solaire infrared grills are made in the USA and made to last. And more importantly, Solaire infrared grills deliver the wow that everybody likes to receive as a gift. Learn more about the amazing Solaire infrared grills at besthotgrill.com. Besthotgrill.com. Solaire infrared gift giving at its best at besthotgrill.com. All right, so we showed you Berkeley. The other big news, of course, that's going to continue to be news this week is the shutdown, the government shutdown. I want to look to Pennsylvania for a moment, and I want to shout out to John Fetterman, a Democrat who has consistently voted to reopen the government with what they call the Clean CR, continuing resolution. And he's a Democrat, and the other Pennsylvania senator is a Republican, Dave McCormick. They both voted every single time to reopen the government. They put out a statement together. Let's roll it.
Yesterday, Senator Fetterman and I had our 15th vote to open up the government. It looks like the government's finally going to open up. This was the wrong approach. It's been damaging for Pennsylvanians. 2 million people on SNAP, 100,000 federal employees. Senator and I are always going to vote to keep the government open.
We're in a different party, and our parties have different priorities. In this situation, we both agree that shutting our government down is wrong for our Commonwealth and for our nation, and I've refused to shut our government down.
You can always count on us to work together to put Pennsylvania first.
That's unusual, and it's so cool. And I applaud John Fetterman for consistently voting to keep the government open. He was one of the few Democrats that did that. Finally, we got just enough. Isn't it amazing? We got just enough Democrats to cross over and vote to open it up. Just enough. Just enough. See, there's a thing that happens. They decide, you know what? Okay, we gotta give in. We gotta compromise. We gotta do this. This isn't working in our favor. So who will be our sacrificial lambs? Well, we got to choose Democrats who aren't up for re-election so that no one primaries you. We got to pick Democrats who are in safe seats. And that's what they did. And then those Democrats who went ahead and voted to open up the government gave the rest of the party permission to rip the hell out of them. That's how it works. Now, Van Jones, a liberal CNN commentator, tried to put this all on Republicans and make Republicans look bad. And I got to tell you, objectively, when all the Republicans were voting to keep the government open, I don't know how you make this argument, but Van Jones,
something has been proven
tried.
here.
Roll it.
Republicans are just not that into Americans right now. I mean, how much pain were the Republicans willing to let Americans suffer so they didn't have to? They're just not that into America. They were willing to let planes fall out the sky. They're willing to let children starve. They're willing to let federal workers get evicted from their houses rather than sit down and cut a deal on health care. like everything that David Urban just said is correct. There's a smarter, better way to do health care. And an opportunity was put forward this past 6 weeks to sit down and talk about it. Republicans didn't do it. They were willing, Donald Trump and Republicans were willing to let planes fall out the sky and children starve before they came to the table. So when Democrats get finished beating themselves up, look at the tattoo you just put on the Republican Party. They don't care about your health care. And so I think take the win on this, Democrats, and keep moving. You had 7 million people in the streets. But I'll give you your turn. But you had 7 million people in the streets. That's a good thing. You kicked their butts last week when it comes to the vote. That's a good thing. And you just exposed these guys as not caring about regular Americans. I think that's a good couple of weeks for Democrats, but we're still going to be mad at each other about it for no reason.
No, for good reason, actually, Van. A couple things. That 7 million he's referring to, the No Kings rallies, who came up with that number? Because from west to east and north to south, all the Democrats have come in on this 7 million, like instantly. Kind of like that was the safest, most secure election in history. Just that message. I don't care if it's true or not, but I want to know where that 7 million came from. Secondly, Republicans were going to let planes fall out of the sky and starve children? I'm sorry, the Republicans were voting to open the government. Now, what he is pointing to when he says health care is this, what Democrats were trying to hold over them was, no, extend the Obamacare tax credits that we, the Democrats, put a sunset on when we first passed them during COVID, but we want you to extend them now. Even though we put the sunset, we determined when they were going to end, but now we want you to extend them anyway. And it was the Democrats who said, we've got the leverage. We need leverage. This is our only leverage. So good try, Van. That's a good attempt at spinning. Oh, my goodness. It's astonishing to me. Now, the only sensible question that came out of this, and I think healthcare is going to get a good, strong look at by both parties, because clearly your affordable, yes, those are air quotes, affordable healthcare or health act, it didn't work. Prices have skyrocketed since that behemoth was passed into law. Remember, Nancy Pelosi said, we have to pass the bill so we can find out what's in it. We found out. And what's in it is higher costs, which is why you needed to put in those tax deductions in the first place. People just, you got to read past their first sentence. You got to just dig one more level. It's very simple, and we hope to help you do that here. But Brit Hume, political analyst at Fox News, had maybe the most pertinent question of anyone. Let's roll this.
If we cannot, as a nation, decide not to continue a subsidy that was imposed or was enacted during a national health emergency and was designed to be temporary, and that all the Democrats voted to have be temporary, if we can't let that expire, what hope do we ever have of getting government spending under control?
Precisely. So there was this COVID pandemic. And so it was an emergency situation. We were all on the same page. So let's put these subsidies in so that people can continue to afford health care during this crisis. And we will end it in 2025, Democrats said. Democrats agreed. We will end it in 2025. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we should keep those alive. Maybe what we should do is use them as leverage, those subsidies, and try to make everyone against it look bad in the process. They don't want health care. They want airplanes out of the sky. They want all this crap. And it's all going to be on the Republicans' fault. No. You guys set the sunset date. And all you wanted, you didn't want to negotiate. You just wanted those subsidies extended. And then you came in, okay, just one more year. Then what would you have done next year? Just one more year. And then what would you have done the following year? You get the idea. How are we ever going to get spending under control, which, by the way, is a massive national security threat, this debt that we have, this debt and deficit, that's the national security issue of the time. How are we going to get it under control if we just keep giving money to people? Let's take care of the people who really need it. And these subsidies were going to be given to a lot of people, trust me, who don't need it. So there we go. Education is going to continue to be a big issue in this country as long as we don't teach our kids how to identify flaws in arguments, how to accept opposing viewpoints with some sort of civility, how to read. But J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, who's clearly running for president in 2028, is now trying to make himself the education candidate and convince you that public schools are the only schools worthy of investment or attention. Roll it.
Republicans want to take billions away from public schools and pump it into private institutions. They want to punish teachers for telling the truth. They want to criminalize educators for supporting LGBTQ students. They want to turn classrooms into cultural war battlegrounds. And I'm sorry to be vulgar, but Donald Trump and his cronies can fuck all the way off.
Okay, so this is a new tactic as well. Just use as much vulgar language as you can to make your point. All right, we get it, JB. You're real tough, and that's cool. Here's the problem. No one wants to criminalize teachers from supporting LGBTQ kids. What they don't want is indoctrination. What they don't want is teachers trying to tell kids that they are not what they think they are, that they were born in the wrong body. There is a vast difference here, folks, between supporting LGBT kids, and indoctrinating. That's a massive, massive spectrum of thought and idea and implementation. Don't get it twisted. But he's not going to tell you that. He's not going to tell you that. And I would argue that the left has already turned the classroom into culture war zones with all of this stuff about you're either oppressed or the oppressor. I learned a lot of facts in my time in school. I learned all about slavery. I wrote my second grade report on slavery and Abraham Lincoln. I remember it well. I remember the teal notebook cover I put on it to turn it in. I remember how proud I was of that report. So that was second grade. I was about 8 years old. I learned it, but no one ever told me it was my fault or anyone else's fault that is in existence today in the 20th and 21st centuries. That's the difference, JB. All right. Since socialism is catching fire in America, I wanted to play this TikTok video from a woman who was raised in Eastern Europe and who said this socialism stuff ain't what all you young people think it is. Roll it.
Do you know one of the first things Bolsheviks in 1917 did to Soviet Russia when they took over after revolution? They prohibited practicing religion. Religion was illegal. I grew up atheist in Soviet Union. We didn't have any churches. It was shut down. It was literally illegal to practice any religion. Socialism doesn't want people to have spirituality. It doesn't want people to have any connection to God, because we've been taught that our gods are literally the fathers of socialism. Lenin, his body was in mausoleum. We were worshiping him. This is like a paganism death cult. So why do you think there is no Christian socialist countries? And never will be.
Fascinating take. By the way, if you're trying to get your kids in particular to understand maybe the Bolsheviks, to understand what the effect of all of this stuff is, I would recommend A Gentleman in Moscow. It's a Showtime series, short series. There's also a book. The audiobook is very good. And it's a great look into what happened back then, and done in a very entertaining way with some phenomenal characters. And the TV version is very, very good. I think you can see it now on Hulu. The author is Amor Tolls, and I'm trying to think who played the lead, and I can't think of his name right now. I guess it's on Paramount Plus as well. Maybe net. I don't know. You'll find it. Find it streaming. Very, very good. Here, let me look at the cast. Ewan McGregor is the lead. He's the gentleman in Moscow. Very good, very entertaining, very worth the watch. Trust me on that. Now, will this be worth the watch? Are you happy or kind of about the fact that Toy Story 5 was just announced? Coming out in June of next year. Here's the Disney trailer.
Bonnie, there's a package for you. I was standing, you were there, two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart.
Oh, thank you. Hi there, I'm Lilypad. Let's play.
An amazing franchise. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm guessing that this is going to be the plot. She gets the lily pad, which is basically an electronic game, like an iPad or anything like that. And she's going to discover that that is not nearly as fun as playing with actual toys, or as people say in these days, touching grass. Oh, that'd be a great message, by the way. But I see many people conflicted about this. They didn't want it to go past Toy Story 3. They didn't like Toy Story 4. How can they possibly like 5? Well, you know what? The characters are so lovable. They're so lovable. We will see. It's going to be several months before we get to critique it, but that's the trailer. And with that, I am going to end the podcast the way I always do, by saying, be brave, do good. Those two things can rule your day. They can be the lanes in which you drive yourself through your day, by being good and being brave, doing good and being brave. You get the idea. Be brave, do good. We'll see you next time. You can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.